This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network. Presented by Hearthside Bank.
How does Marcus Rashford fit in with Aston Villa, and what is going on with Manchester United's lineup? Welcome into Sports Source Premiere. I am Will West alongside Chris Carroll. What we do is we talk about English Premier League soccer every single week here on Sports Source Digital Network. Chris, you're from Wolverhampton. I see you sporting the Wolves shirt right now.
Flying the flag.
Yeah.
Flying the flag, yep. They are almost sold out, so get them while you can.
Yeah, I'm wearing the National SC jersey right now. Not a big MLS fan, but we like to peek in on the local team whenever we get an opportunity to. Let's start out with our top topic of the day. Manchester United, Marcus Rashford hasn't been playing for them. He is sent on loan to Villa, an option to buy. Yeah. Villa going to cover 75% of his £350,000 per week wages. That seemed to be an issue with a lot of teams bringing on Marcus Rashford. What are your thoughts on the falling out with Rashford and Manchester United?
It's a really strange one. You wonder what's gone on with Rashford's personal life, if there's anything going on there, and if there is, that's really sad. But we're here to talk about the soccer side of things or the football side of things. If I say soccer, I mean football. If I say football, I mean soccer, depending on where you're watching.
Yeah.
So, this guy has done it all. He's been there, done it. He was a driving force with Man United for a good 8 years. He scored on his debut when he was a teenager. He scored on his debut in Europe. He's played for England. He was scored on his debut for England. He played in the World Cup, Euros. This guy's done it all. He's got pace, he's an unbelievable finisher. Such a great player, and he's just dropped off at a time when he should be a great example for these young guys.
He should be entering his prime right now, 27 years of age, right?
And it's so strange, and it's whether he's fallen out with the management. Like I say, he's got personal issues. Whatever it is, you'd think he might be saying, because of his experience, I'll show you, I'll play wherever you want me to play, and I'll lead the way. I love Man United. I've been here since I was 7. But it hasn't gone that way, and I guess he feels like he needs a change.
Well, he's not playing right now. He got into it with Ruben Amorim, the manager there at United. Kind of weird that it was because within 48 hours of the Manchester Derby with City, he was out late one night. Within 48 hours, so 2 days before the match with Manchester City, he was out late. That feels a little excessive, and then there were some issues when it came to training. He's also not performed well. And let's be honest, 11 goals the last 2 seasons after 17 just 3 years ago. He has not been playing up to the form that we saw Marcus Rashford play. I mean, if you think about it, the Euros just a few years ago, I think a lot of us thought that's a guy that's going to be a star for England for a long time, right? And it's gone the other way at a time where he should be entering his prime. So for Villa, I understand where Villa is currently sitting on the table. You bring in a guy who has upside to be a fantastic player on the wing for you. You have Ollie Watkins in the middle. You also bring in Marco Asensio from PSG, who's attacking midfielder, who also adds to your attack. Unai Emery's brought in some big names, but big names who have been underachieving the last couple of years. Asensio after his injury a few years ago. But with Rashford, maybe Unai Emery can be the catalyst that gets him back in the right headspace to be able to, because there's nothing wrong seemingly physically with him. No. It just seems to be all between the ears right now for him.
It does, and if it's a principle thing between him and Amorim, he can make Amorim look pretty foolish. Yeah. If he decides to switch it on for Villa and get back to the form that we know that he can play at, then there'll be questions asked of Amorim. And Unai Emery, he's got a great track record of blending a team together, and I mean he's done it. He's doing it now, and I think a Rashford could really be. He could, like as you say, work really well with the forward line at Villa.
When you look right now for Villa, I mean, again, they're not really in a position where it looks like they're going to push for Europe. But when you're bringing on players like this, you're doing it for making a push for Europe, right? So if Emery can unlock Rashford or whatever's going on there, if he can get Asensio to start playing back to an elite level. They're pretty good at the back. I like Martinez in goal. So it's just a matter of getting more goals and getting more help for Ollie Watkins. There was even the rumor that Ollie Watkins maybe ends up going to Arsenal. That didn't happen as the transfer window shut. But Villa looks like they are in position to make a run if there's a team that's going to make a run in the second half of this season.
Absolutely, and they're still in the Champions League as well.
Yeah.
So that, Rashford's looking at that and thinking, well, Man United, that's something they've got on top of Man United right now. So yeah, it's a real strange one. It's a shame for the guy if it hasn't worked out. The club, where he spent all his life, but the opportunity to make a huge impact with Villa and be really successful in the Champions League, make a run in the league, it's there.
Well, let's talk about Man United because now that they don't have Rashford, I was texting with you the other day, we were talking on the phone. Right now, Manchester United 16th in goals scored, 12th in shots, 13th on the table. Who's the world-class player? Bruno Fernandes, I would say, is one, but he's aging. In times past, United, since we have had access to English Premier League soccer, United has always had world-class players. I don't know that they have one world-class player under the age of 30 right now on that roster. And I know they have injuries to Luke Shaw. They have an injury to Mason Mount. I don't know that I look at those guys as world-class players anyway.
No.
It just seems like the difference in what United's lineup is now versus 07-08 versus 98-99. This does not look like how Manchester United has done business in my lifetime anyway.
No, it's not. Manchester United were the epitome of a well-run club. Standards were, everybody tried to aspire to their standards. Sir Alex Ferguson was the constant, but the players, I believe, as well as the coach, the players held each other accountable for excellence. And when you look at the guys like the class of '92, Beckham, Scholes, Giggs, the guys who came through, Neville's, they blended in with the pros who were also setting the example, like the Cantonars had, and your Roy Keane, etc. So you got youth who soccer was their main focus, and you got the experience where soccer was the main focus, and not just soccer, but Manchester United, the Manchester United way. Ferguson went; those guys moved on, and they've never recaptured that. And they keep talking about this is Man United, but what Man United is now isn't what Man United has always been.
Yeah, and I look at the 08-09, right? You have Ronaldo, you have Rooney, you have Cole, you have Neville, you have Keane still as the captain who's on board. I mean, it's just a who's who.
Right.
And right now, you have a lot of 19-year-olds playing. And then you're waiting on second-tier players from England's national team to come back off of injury, one of which is over the age of 30. I just don't know what and for a lot of it, I would look, and I think there's a lot of blame that goes to the chairman. Same group of chairmen that were there in 08-09. So I don't understand what the thought process is now for United, why they think. I don't honestly see a strategy for United. Look, rebuilds happen. And if you need to rebuild your team because your team was aging, or you brought Rashford, it's not working out with him, and we were building around Fernandes, Rashford, and everything we had there, that makes a little bit of sense to me. But I don't see a strategy in what you're doing to rebuild right now. It just seems like you're bringing on second-tier players, and you have the United brand. It's very Dallas Cowboys-esque for people who watch American football.
They're throwing players at it. There's no core of players that they're adding to and building around, like you say. Ten Hag, he managed to foul up Ronaldo, or Ronaldo going back into the Manchester United the Man United he saw second time around was completely different to what he knew the first time.
Yeah.
So he left. Since then, they're just picking out individuals. I don't know what the recruiting are looking for, if they're giving it much thought, or if they're just going, yeah, we'll have him. We need a forward, we'll have him. They're obviously not gelling. Right at the top, the owners, they're not looking good because they're now taking, for example, there's no concessions for kids now on the ticket prices. There used to be £44 a game, now it's 66 across the board. So your kids are your future, it's a good look to encourage the kids. It's a good community look. Now that's gone. And they're getting rid of the legends who do the tours around the grounds, the players that have made Man United the club that they are. They're really, it looks like now it's disrespectful to them what he's doing. So the very top, to what's going on the field and everything in between, like the recruitment, when they bring Dan Ashworth in and then they get rid of him after a short while, for whatever reason, it looks a mess. It looks a complete mess, quite frankly.
Let's go on to the biggest match of the week from United to City. Arsenal pound Manchester City this past weekend. And if you remember, we did a show a few years back where we talked about Okay, how valuable is a midfield right now? Because everyone was pressing high, and how you beat that was the long ball or switching play, reversing play. And now you look at what Arsenal's doing right now. One, Arsenal with Rice, Odegaard, and Partey, always able to move the ball forward. Even you don't have Saka, you have Kai Havertz at the number 9. It doesnn't matter who the names are, and those are still talented players up front. But because of how dominant that midfield is, everything at the back's a little bit protected. Everything at the front, you're able to get the ball forward. And you look at the opposite of that with Manchester City right now. Erling Haaland went over half an hour without a touch in that match against Arsenal.
Right. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Arsenal, I think what it said to me, that game was, well, you don't have to be an expert, but Arsenal always had a bit of a soft underbelly the last few years. It looks like they got that steel that's necessary to get over that line. They've had a psychological issue with Man City over the years. Let's beat Man City. We're there now. They've got Liverpool performing like they're performing, but Arsenal now, you can see when you got Gabriel taunting Haaland. They're not getting pushed around Arsenal so much. People are starting to not like Arsenal because of their tactics or the dark arts in the set pieces and what they're up to. So they're not gaining friends, but they won't care about that. They're finding ways to win. So at the same time they're doing that, they've got a great blend. And you look through that team, there's not many kids. They've just got the new guy, Lewis. What's his name? Lewis Skeller. So he's dropped in really nicely. But that midfield that you mentioned, Rice, Odegaard, Partey, what a great midfield that is. The forwards are doing the job at top. The question they've got, the question mark still, is the number 9. Havertz, is he going to be the main man to get him over the line, as everybody says, and scoring those 30 goals a season, which is what they need to be, what you want a centre forward to be doing. But they're all chipping in. Yeah, they're all chipping in with goals, so it's working for them right now.
Yeah. All right. Let's the other side of this is Man City. So yes, Haaland doesn't. At the front, Haaland doesn't touch the ball for a half an hour straight. You've also given up more goals so far this season than you did each of the last 2 full campaigns, and we're just now finishing the January transfer window. It's not going well at the back end for City right now, and I see a lot of people pointing the finger saying, is it Pep's fault with these players that they're not performing at the level they should?
I think Pep might have taken his eye off the ball a little bit, and without realising that how many players were coming to that were over the peak of their careers. And there's a number of those that it's happened at the same time. He's been hit by some injuries as well to some of his key players. And all of a sudden, he's quickly trying to fill gaps, and strengthen. Now they've strengthened in the transfer window. They've spent the most out of anybody this window. So that remains to be seen. Are they going to gel? He's not getting the best out of Haaland because of how Haaland scored as many goals as he has, playing tiki-taka soccer, I don't know, but he has, because I guess he had all those quality players around him. Haaland's strength is running into space, fighting off defenders, powering the last 20, 30 yards and belting the ball past the goalkeeper. And he's just, like you said, he didn't touch the ball for minutes and minutes. I think he had 8 touches in the game. You've got a guy like that who's an absolute machine, and you're not getting the best out of him. So I think it's a number of things. I think Pep has. I think he's definitely struggled, and he's almost admitting that. Now, is he a good coach? He's brought it. They've spent money. He's brought money in. Are they going to do a Man United where they're just bringing players in and plopping them in, or are they going to be coached to the system that works for them?
All right, let's move on, because one thing that we were talking about this weekend, if you look at the table right now, 8 of the top 12 clubs are historically smaller clubs or less successful clubs. In that top 12, 8 of the top 12. That is 2/3 of it, which is wild to me. And I don't know kind of how it was happening, and then it kind of did a deep dive since Sunday looking into it. The one thing that those clubs have in common that I think that the Uniteds, the Tottenhams, that they're bringing in players that fit their system, but they're also bringing in adults who are either in their prime or just kind of at the back end of their prime right now. And when it seems like a lot of the bigger clubs in the EPL, Liverpool is an exception, Arsenal's an exception, they're bringing in a lot of 19-year-olds. They're doing business a lot like the NBA does business, where we're going to bring in a young guy based on potential. And in the past, that would be what a smaller club would do, is bring on a 19-year-old, get something out of him, sell him on, bring a bunch of money in, and then maybe you can try to do that again over and over. I'll give you Fulham as an example. They have Jimenez, Traore, sorry to bring up the Wolves players immediately off the bat, but Smith Rowe, Iwobi, Leno in goal. Those are quality EPL players. I don't know that any of them are world class, but you put together 5 really quality EPL players, and now Fulham sits eighth on the table right now.
Right. Yeah, and now, you know what a great recruiting team will do? They'll look at the characters of those players. They'll talk to the people around them, and they'll get references, if you like, about what are they like in the dressing room. What are they like when the chips are down? You know, are they gonna sulk? And it's those clubs are doing the opposite to what your top. Let's use Man United as an example. It appears they're doing the opposite to what Man United are doing. Man United are just it looks like they're just plucking a player out, regardless of whether he's going to sulk or whatever, blend in with his teammates, whatever. How long have they been in England? You know, you're going to pull a kid from a different part of the world and just drop him into England and expect him to perform. You know, it doesn't happen that way, because it affects the surroundings affect them. So Jimenez, Traore, to quote the 2 Wolves players, they've been playing in England they're from wherever, but they've been playing in England. They're bedded in. They know what it's like to go and play at Fulham. You know, so they know what's expected of them. So a great recruiting team, that's what the Brightons, the Brentfords, Bournemouth, Forest, those clubs, Fulham's, they're doing that recruiting, and they're almost doing it. Well, they are doing it statistically, and they're not taking many chances. They don't get them all right, but they're taking less chances. They're taking more care on getting those buys right.
And if you look at the difference in the way that the big clubs are doing it, the result for the big club versus the result for the small club that brings in, I mean, like, I think the youngest player on the field for Forest this weekend was 23.
Right.
So, I mean, that's incredible. But Tottenham has 3 kids under the age of 20 who are on the field this weekend. Like, just the difference in what a 27-year-old who's played 5-6 years of Premier League football, what he can do versus what a 17, 18-year-old can do who, under the lights for the first time, something like this. Right now, United's leading goal scorer has 1 fewer than Jamie Vardy. So, really? Like, if you look at just the difference in what you're getting out of the young guys being up front, it's weird to me that Tottenham, United, some of these clubs, that they've gone so young, because it almost makes me wonder, is there some sort of, I know it's not called financial fair play, but financial fair play situation that's happening there. But I don't think it is. And I wonder also, is this the influence of American ownership and management? Because this is the way the NBA is run, and the bad teams are always bad no matter how big of a market it is, because they're drafting 18 and 19-year-olds to bring them in, and look, we're developing them. And part of it is that the front office, the sporting director in this case, or whoever in my technical director, you can point to, with ownership, with the board, with the fans, that, hey, we're building towards something. So if you're terrible for 3 years, or if you're underachieving for 3 years, but I had this 19-year-old, and look at the promise that this guy has. Whereas it just seems like Forest is trying to win right now, and Fulham's trying to win right now, and Brighton's trying to win right now, and they're not pointing to something for the future that they're building towards. And I do think a lot of people, when Arsenal had Eddie Nketiah and Bukayo Saka and those guys, and they were so young, and people were flying banners, get rid of Arteta out, and it worked out for them. I do wonder, is the EPL kind of a copycat league? And so you see, especially the cheaper owners, Levy is one of them. Maybe they're looking at it saying, well, we're going to do our own version of Arsenal. And I think Arsenal they caught lightning in a bottle. And also, it didn't work out with some of those guys, right? And it did work out with him. It did with Saka, but there's also not an Odegaard being brought in. There's not a Declan Rice being brought into those clubs that are elite world-class players that you're bringing into the big club to help the young guys that you have. So I just think that it's weird how the tables have kind of turned, where a Fulham, a Forest will bring in quality veterans with a lot of steel to them, and the spotlight's never going to be too big, and they're willing to play physical with anybody. Whereas the larger clubs, some of them, are bringing in younger, faster, more team players with maybe more promise, but they don't necessarily, not ready to perform quite yet.
No, and that promise is great when you drop that promise into a team of a functioning team.
With a Jimenez and a Traore and
and where the atmosphere is good, there's positive around the dressing room, there's positive around the training ground. I can't imagine what it's like going every day to Man United at the moment, and then you bring a teenager in, drop him in there. Well,
good luck.
Well, exactly,
you become Spurs. That's what happens to you.
And fans will only take building for the future for so long. Arteta, I think, it just happened just in time for Arteta, because I know a lot of Arsenal fans were wanting to let him go.
Absolutely.
Just happened right. So it's managing a pro team or any team, chemistry is huge. And they're all good players, but you've just got to, you use the phrase lightning in a bottle, and sometimes that's what it's got to be. Just the right chemistry, right time, right players. And I think you have to put a lot more thought into it than just pulling out, spending millions on players that don't fit each other, don't match. And then you've got to play them in a system where they can play.
Let's go to our match of the week. It's cup ties all week long, and then at the end of the weekend, your match of the week for this week.
My match of the week is Villa against Spurs for a couple of reasons. And one, Villa, I'm looking forward to seeing Rashford.
Yeah.
Seeing what impact he has, if any. Spurs, I got a feeling Spurs are going to win a trophy this year. I really do. And I know you're going to
from your mouth to God's ears. That is, as long as Levy draws breath in Tottenham, I just don't know that's going to happen.
I'm a big Spurs fan, but I do. So I think Spurs got, like you say, FA Cup week. Spurs have got a great FA Cup history. I know it's a history, not a recent history.
Yeah, it's definitely not a recent history.
But they do. When I was back in my day, younger, I remember Spurs were always there or thereabouts in the FA Cup. Some great memories with Spurs. Villa, they'll be going for it because it's a trophy that they can win. And let's see what Rashford can do.
Well, you're not spending like this to not win some type of silver, right? You're not bringing in Rashford and Asensio and adding that to that team already to not win something, even though it seems like right now the Premier League's off the table and maybe the Champions League isn't the most likely scenario. I'll actually take the Spurs match earlier in the week. Spurs against Liverpool.
Yeah.
You go to Anfield, up 1-0 on aggregate in the Carabao Cup. It's both of those Carabao Cup semifinals look fantastic, don't they? I mean, so let's see what if Newcastle over Arsenal, because they have a 2-0 lead in that one. So you have the club the clubs that are further down the table who are actually up on aggregate right now, but you're heading to the stadium of the team that's further up the table. Mm-hmm. So I am incredibly invested in what's going on in Carabao Cup this weekend. I think if Spurs win silver, that's the best scenario as maybe Carabao Cup, because my hope is Liverpool's so worried about everything else going on that they play their backups or something like that, or play the young kids. But I do think Spurs-Liverpool is going to be a very interesting matchup, especially with Spurs one up on aggregate right now. Upset pick of the week for cup ties.
Upset. Now I'm going home here. Blackburn Wolves. Blackburn Wolves has a special place in Wolves fans' hearts, because it was the last time Wolves won the FA Cup. Beat Blackburn in the final in 1960. Didn't see it before you ask. And they won 3-0. I think Blackburn, they're fifth, and they're pushing for promotion. I think they're going to want to keep momentum going. I think Wolves, with a paper-thin squad that they've got, they're going to be resting some players this weekend. I just got a feeling that Blackburn are going to turn Wolves over.
I could see that, because I could see Wolves resting everyone they can to make sure they stay out of relegation territory, because that's the goal right now for Wolves, is stay up at the end of the day. Yep. I'll take Burnley over St. Mary's, or over Southampton at St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. I know that's tough to take the championship team over the Premier League team, especially at the Premier League team's stadium, but I think that could happen this weekend. Southampton with kind of shocking win to me against Ipswich this weekend. Not that Ipswich is lighting the world on fire, but that was a very nice win for them. I just think that Burnley right now playing pretty well, third in the championship table. I think that Burnley can go there and beat a Southampton team that may be trying to rest players as well to see if they can possibly stay up. Doesn't seem likely, but after that win, maybe it gave them hope, and they'll play some of the young players in that. Yeah. Your target man, one player you're targeting to have a big match week this weekend.
Well, I'm going with Alexander Isak of Newcastle. They're away at Birmingham. Now, there's another. Birmingham are doing great in League One, the top of the league. Promotion's going to be their main focus, so they're going to be resting players. Newcastle are flying. I see Eddie Howe seeing this trophy as silverware, a great opportunity for them to win silverware. So I think they'll be going for it. Isak's flying. He's on fire. Since joining Newcastle, he's got 48 and 73. And he's scoring recently. So I think, yeah, he's my man.
I'm going to go with, and this is a deep dive, but it's Cup tie weekend, so you never know what's going to happen. Give me John McGinn for Villa against Spurs on Sunday. McGinn only has 4 goals on the season, but Spurs, especially with the way the way that they have been talking about how they're playing their players, that they have Cup in the weekend or Europe in the week, and then you're playing on the weekend, they'll rest players Thursday to Sunday. So I think Sunday, I don't know that they're going to play their full club. Right now, Ollie Watkins dealing with a little bit of an injury.
Yeah.
Some people are saying someone else is going to have to score in that one, and I think John McGinn
Good player.
Can be that guy.
Yeah, I like John McGinn. I think he's fantastic. He's a player that you love having on your team, and he just winds the opposition up, so everybody else doesn't like the guy.
Yeah.
But he's not Mr. Popular, let's say, but he's great on your team, and I really like. Work rate pops up with the odd goal or two, so I could see that.
Chris Carroll, Carroll Sports Academies, and also FC National here in East Tennessee. I'm Will West from 99.1 The Sports Animal. Again, like, subscribe if you want this type of content. And if you disagree with what we had to say here, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your feedback on it here on Sports Source Premier.